thing that we preach on the podcast and just in my brand in general is mindset. I think mindset is like super key to anything you do. It is like the foundation of everything. In order for you to make a song or for you to go to performance, you have to have the right mindset. You can't go up there and be like, oh, it's not.
And then people were starting to come to Canada, and like there was more opportunities growing here. There's more like industries, like like trades industries and stuff like that. It was easier for me to
make that
transition to something else.
Yeah, and I think it was probably helped too because, like you said, you were playing music, right? And so you knew that you were actually good at something else at the same time too. So you're like, oh, you know what? Okay.
Yes.
I think actually even. It's funny because I think Ori actually can
anything like that. Like I wasn't like Alphonso Davies or anything, like it wasn't that.
Yeah.
So it was easier for me to
make that
transition to something else.
Yeah. And I think it was probably helped too because, like you said, you were playing music, right? Sir,
woohoo!
We are back in the building.
You already know.
Back with the energy, Back in the building with my main man Ori.
Yes, sir.
His short hair now, so it's not bad. It's not a bad look on him,
But he's still bald, man.
Well, I don't know about that,
Take it off. Bro, it's like what's the weather? It's like hot. It's hot in here, bro.
You know what? It's not that hot, but the fan. I'm cool. I'm feeling nice. You know what? I went to play ball yesterday. And I took off my hat, and everybody laughed at me.
You see?
They said that there was a lot of guys from high school, and they were like, "Yo, I never thought that this would be you."
Yeah.
They're like, "You look like an uncle."
You see?
And so
you see,
I've learned my lesson. So I'm gonna just keep my hat on from now on.
You see, there's a reason why we call you the bald man
until I can get to Turkey. And then everything can change.
He's trying to.
So until then, but we are back with another episode of the Grind Theory Talk Show.
Yes.
We're making a change from the podcast to the talk show just because we have bigger things in store, So just a quick recap. Actually, before we even get into anything, first things first, what do we always do, Ori?
Let's give man to the big man.
Big man. The big man upstairs, we got to give thanks to God for just being with us and bringing us so far into the year, just waking us up every day, allowing us to be able to come here and to do this show.
Fact.
Not only just to do the show, but it's beautiful weather outside. For our listeners, for our guests, letting our guests come here safely.
Yes.
Just allowing us to be here safely and set up everything.
Yeah.
Just a lot to thank God for. So always want to make sure that we give God his due praise and credit.
Yes.
And with that being said, quick recap of last week's episode. So last week's episode, we had the man Kutsanai Penge on the podcast. It was actual I guess a kind of like a redo.
Yeah.
Because we had him earlier in last year, and he actually that episode we lost the video to it.
Yeah,
so
see, the only reason why we never lose the audio file is because it's automatically backed up on the system. That's why. But still, it's my fault. So
excuses.
No,
it was a team thing. So, but we were able to redo that interview. I think it was a really great interview.
Yes.
One of the key things that we were able to dive into was just the point of never losing hope. Kuti talks about going through some rough times, a point even where he contemplated suicide, and just remembering that to never lose hope, right? There's so many things to live for, so many things to do. Even when you're in a rut, you just got to push through, right?
Yeah.
And so today...
Yes.
Now, today, we have a very special guest in the building.
Before you introduce special guest, so Aquille's going to be running this solo, so I'm going to be heading out and be behind the scene while this man handles, give you guys a great show.
Yes, sir. Oh, man.
Have fun.
So, we have a very special guest today. I actually got to give a shout out to my man, LaShawn, because it was actually in LaShawn's episode that he mentioned this guest. And kind of since then, it's kind of been on our radar. And I kind of draw a lot of attention to it so that I can start following this guest. So our guest today, I'm super excited. Our guest today is a rapidly rising star in the music industry. He is R&B artist /R&B/pop artist of Indian descent, and he has been majorly influenced by the likes of Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, and The Weeknd. And he's taken elements of how they do their music and added into his music to create his own unique style. And he is no novice to having success. Having opened for Scott Hellman and Joy Landreth, and not only that, but he has numerous songs that have had over 1 million streams on Spotify, having his songs placed in big editorial playlists on Spotify's playlist, Amazon's playlist, and Apple as well. And not only that, but having a big and growing following in Europe as well. Having, I believe his song was "Wanting," picked by Peter Tong, and it was put on the Mr. Jam BBC radio show. And then also having one of his songs handpicked by, I hope I say this name right, Tiesto, and placed in his playlist. But not only that, he's also had the pleasure. This is super dope, y'all. Of having 2 of his songs on Netflix shows. Netflix, you know what I'm saying? Netflix that you watch every day, that you pay, they upping the price a little bit too much to $20 now. But that you had on Netflix. He had his song Take All I Am was on season 2 of the Netflix original show The Order. As well as his song Summertime, which was on the Netflix original show Little Pretty Things, I believe, or Tiny Pretty Things. So super, super dope. Not only that, but he has actually had the ability to collaborate with Sony India and do some writing and some singing with them, and releasing a project that's had over 5 million views on YouTube. So like I said, no novice to success. And just recently, he dropped his second full-length album, The Melodrama. I'm actually rocking some of the merch. I'm not just saying this because he's here on the guest. This is actually one of the most comfiest hoodies that I've ever had. And it's like baggy, it gives me a nice little vibe. So I'm liking it. But he's not only in experience and success, but he's also educated, having a major in psychology. So, man, without further ado, I can go on and on, but without further ado, we are going to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Sahunta in the building.
Yo, I can't believe you remember that.
Yes, sir, man.
Oh my gosh. You literally just memorized my entire bio.
I'm telling you, man, I always make it a point of emphasis to do that. I want the intro, when I do the intro, you feel like, you come in here, you feel like nice,
I appreciate it, man. That was amazing.
So no, man. You know what? Before we even get started, actually, I want to take a little moment to just give you some flowers here, man. I reached out to you on Instagram, and I remember I was asking you some questions, even about some athletic questions, also some questions about music and stuff like that, and just in terms of the grind. And you took the time. You didn't know me at the time or anything like that. You didn't know of me, and you took the time to really answer those questions. And it wasn't like I just asked you like, hey, do you do music? It was like I was asking you in-depth questions, and you took the time out of your day to give me full-length answers and go back and forth. So that's something that I really appreciate, because you didn't have to do that. And just from observing you, from the brief interactions that we've had, coming to your show and interactions online, you just come across to me as a very humble guy, and very genuine. So I just wanted to kind of give you your flowers and just say appreciate you for that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So, my man Josh. So I want you to take us back now to where it all started, straight from the womb.
Oh.
No.
Sheesh. Yeah, man. I mean, I've been doing music for pretty much my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as before I could talk, even, my parents gave me a little toy drum.
Okay.
And they kind of noticed really quickly that I was able to kind of like keep a rhythm, and
Mm-hmm.
then my aunt gave me like a toy keyboard, and when I was 3-4 years old, they would put on Disney movies and like Michael Jackson and stuff like that, and they would just kind of like leave me in the room and like with a thing on, and they found that I was like learning how to play the songs
Really?
just by ear when I was really young.
Oh wow.
And honestly, yeah, ever since then, music has just always been a huge part of my life. Now I'm super thankful that I do it for a career, but yeah, it's just always been like something that I've just always loved and always gravitated towards. So
Okay, so like music has been in your blood like from since the beginning.
I think so, yeah.
That's dope. Actually, so were you actually born? Were you born in Edmonton,
Yes.
so you were born in
Yeah.
Edmonton? And did you grow up here in Edmonton as well?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of my childhood in England, but the
Okay.
majority of it here.
Okay.
And yeah, just kind of grew up in the Millwoods area. And
Okay, shout out to Mill
Yeah,
Woods.
shout out Millwoods.
I used to live in Mill Woods too, actually.
Nice.
Yeah,
I feel like everybody at some point has
at some
lived in
point, yeah,
Millwoods.
it's like a rite of passage. You know, if you're in Edmonton, you gotta live in
You
Mill
have
Woods
to
and then
experience Millwoods.
graduate.
Exactly.
So you mentioned that you lived in England for a little
Yep.
bit. Kind of what time frame was that? Did you were born in Canada and then did you move to England?
Yeah, so basically, long story short, my dad was trying to secure work in Edmonton. His older sister had moved to Edmonton. My dad moved from India to England when he was 12 years old, and then basically spent the majority of his young adulthood life in England. And then obviously, like back then, the work situation in England was really bad, and then people were starting to come to Canada, and like there was more opportunities growing here. There's more like industries, like like trades industries and stuff like that. And my dad worked in automotives and in like machine shops and things like that, and those jobs were popping up like crazy in Edmonton. And so his sister moved here first, and then he shortly after followed after her and came here, and then he met my mom in England.
Okay.
My mom is born and raised in England.
Okay.
And then they met in England, and then eventually, like through this process of going back and forth, they ended up here. And then when I was born here, we still kind of were going back and forth because all my family's still in England.
Okay.
I have like one set of cousins here,
and then
everybody else is in England. So
Okay.
for my dad, it was easier for him to just spend more time in England while he was, trying to get things going here and get work secured. So we were back and forth a lot. So
Okay. And so like, what's the I think we were talking a little bit about it earlier before the podcast, but what's the difference between like England and coming into Edmonton? Like the kind of, was there a cultural difference, just experience wise? Like how was it?
yeah, I mean, I think like, especially now, like I just toured in England right before the pandemic, and I've been going to England for my whole life. Like every year we usually go once or twice.
Okay.
And like it's interesting because Canada to England is not as big of a difference in terms of like cultural diversity, because you get a lot of that. I would say more so probably in England.
Okay.
Because
I've heard that.
what people typically do, at least like from India, is they usually go India to England and then England to Canada, or England to the States. Very rarely is it, well, maybe more nowadays, but back then it was always like India to England, then England to Canada.
Yeah.
Now it's, you sometimes get the like India straight to Canada, but like a lot of people end up stopping in England, and then a lot of them end up staying.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like culturally it's very similar. I think you see a lot more of the culture ingrained deeper into England than you do here.
Okay.
Here it's like you get westernized versions of all the different cultures, I think.
I agree.
Whereas in England, I think people have retained their culture a little bit better. I don't know how to explain it, but like that's just kind of the vibe I get. And yeah, like there's so much more of a focus in Europe in general on like art and music and stuff like that than there is in Canada, in my opinion.
Yeah.
America, obviously, like they're the central hub for all things music. But I think, yeah, like England to Canada, like there's a big difference in like in that vibe. So
Okay. No, I feel like I haven't had the opportunity to be to England yet, but I will be. I will be soon. I've been told about it. I really want to go. I do have family there and stuff as well, but I guess I can see that too. I can see that, I guess, because a lot of people are coming straight from wherever they respectively were before, straight to England, that I guess a lot of their culture is really maintained, and
Exactly.
because it's open to art and different things to be expressed, that it's still allowing them to express their natural thing, whereas
Definitely.
in Canada it's a little bit more westernized, like you were saying, right? So I definitely understand that. So so your, I guess, high school years, right? Going to high school in Edmonton. I mean, right in Edmonton,
Yep.
right? Experiencing snow. I don't wish it on anybody. um, but you, how was your high school? I guess career. Were you involved in music in high school and sports? You know, what were you doing in high school?
Yeah, so that was kind of just like the beginning of me kind of starting to really develop more of an interest in doing music as potentially something more than just a hobby. Me and my friend, we had a little duo, and he would play electric guitar and I would just play drums, and we would just post videos on Facebook for our friends to see.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like what we were doing for a while in junior high. And then into high school, we actually started writing songs together.
Okay.
And neither of us really sang at the time.
Yeah.
And actually, he ended up being the lead singer. And like he and I would just write these songs together, and he would usually sing them because I didn't really sing at that point. And then there was one time where like we were covering this one song. It was called I Will Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab for Cutie or something like that. And he said, "Oh, you should try singing that. Like, I think that would fit your range." And so I did a cover of it, and we posted it on Facebook. And it was the first time I'd ever sang for people.
Yeah.
And all our friends were like losing it, like, you know, they were hyping me up like crazy, and they're like, "Yo, you can sing!
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know this guy could sing." And they were gassing me up, and like that was the first time where I was like, "Oh man, like this feels cool." Like
yeah.
I'm no longer just like a drummer.
Yeah.
Like maybe I can sing. Maybe
yeah.
I can start writing my own songs and singing my own songs. And then I ended up learning the guitar in grade 10,
Okay.
and took like guitar class. And one of my good friends, he's one of my best friends now. He taught me actually more than the teacher taught me.
Oh, wow.
And ever since then, like guitar was just, it became my main instrument, and to this day.
So why guitar though? Why not trumpet or like saxophone? What drew you to the guitar?
I think, I mean, obviously you can sing and play it at the same time. More so for convenience, I think.
Okay.
That at least at the beginning, because you can just throw a guitar in a bag, put it on around your shoulders, and go.
Yeah.
I used to play piano actually. Like when I first started playing shows, I played piano all the time, and it's kind of like annoying taking a big bulky piano and like carrying the big bag, and like you have to, you know, plug it in all the time to things. Otherwise, it's a keyboard. It doesn't actually make sounds by itself. Whereas like acoustic guitar, it's like you can play completely unplugged, and it sounds great. And I just found that was way more convenient. So that's honestly what drew me there. So.
No, hey, I like it though. I like it. So also, I remember actually earlier when we were talking, even before, I think you used to play a little bit of soccer as well too, right? I know Ori is like a big soccer guy over here.
Nice.
But how? And then I guess you had an injury, I believe, in soccer, right? Did that injury kind of spur you more into, and could you expand on that injury, and did it spur you more into your music?
Definitely. So yeah, I played club soccer in Edmonton. I had some interest from scouts, and you know that was like my life towards the end of junior high, beginning of high school. And you know, my family's from England. Soccer is just like the thing.
The thing, yeah.
Every time we go to England, like that's all they want to do is play soccer, and it's very ingrained in my family. And so when I was really young, my parents always put me in soccer, and that was like really reinforced. It's like you go to school, you play soccer, that's it.
That's it.
And so you know, there was all this pressure on me to like be really good at soccer, and I had a lot of my identity in that and being good at it. And I had this like knee condition called Osgood-Schlatter's disease.
Okay.
And a lot of people actually have it. Like it's pretty common, like when you're growing up.
Okay.
And that just like made my life a living nightmare. Like after games, like my knee would just be so swollen.
Okay.
I'd be like limping back to the car, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse.
Okay.
And basically, like they were like, you either get surgery to fix it, or you kind of just like eventually will grow out of it.
Okay.
And I kind of just pushed through it. I like basically like sucked it up, and I was like, okay, whatever, it's gonna hurt, I'm gonna ice it, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting to the point where like I literally couldn't
Like,
play soccer anymore. Like I just
Wow.
I couldn't put any pressure on my
Trying.
knee. Like it was just like completely useless.
Wow.
And even still to this day, like I have knee problems a lot, and it's always this right knee.
Yeah.
Anytime I like do sports or like work out or anything,
Mhm.
like this knee is always really sore.
Really.
So I don't know, like I don't really know like what exactly happened and how it didn't heal, or because you're supposed to grow out of it.
Yeah.
I guess I never did. So, but that just really like, you know, I was in so much pain every time I played soccer. It was
Yeah.
slowing me down.
Yeah.
I had to take shorter shifts. Like my coaches were getting a little frustrated because I wasn't doing what I normally was
capable of, yeah.
expected of me. And
Yeah.
I ended up just taking a step back from soccer and just sports altogether.
Yeah.
And then because I was like in so much pain all the time from like sports, that kind of just naturally led me to doing music, because I could sit there and do it, and it's not like, you know, it's not putting any pressure on my knee or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like, it's interesting that like
It
that's
went-
just like how it naturally happened.
Yeah. No, that is interesting. I think I have heard of that before, that condition before, actually. That's interesting though, because now I'm like, I'm checking my knees. I'm like, oh, maybe my knees are like that. So, but actually, you touched on something. You said a big part of your identity was tied to sports, right? And I think that's something that we actually talked about even when I was talking to you before, right? Because I felt like a similar thing from my standpoint too. Is how were you able to, because so much of your identity was tied to sports, and then now making that transition, now you can't play sports anymore because of that, because of your knee. How was that? Because I know for me personally, that was super difficult for me. Even I'm still kind of in the process of trying to figure out what my new identity is, just because I had it tied to sports from since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then I'm playing all sports, you know, high school, junior high, in university, and then it's taken away from me, and I can't be an athlete in that capacity, and now I just feel lost. So did you have that feeling, or what was the process for you after not being able to play anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the worst time to experience something like that, when you're like a teenager and you know, you're the one thing that makes you feel like you're cool, and like you get your friends from there, and like you just lose it all of a sudden, and you're like young and you don't know what else is impressive about you or anything like that. So it was like a weird time for me, man. Like I was like just really self-conscious. Like I didn't feel like I had that thing that was like my superpower anymore. Most of my friends were like from soccer, and I kind of just drifted apart from them because I wasn't seeing them at practices or games or anything. So I like lost a lot of my friends. And then, I mean, it was just a period of time where I just like, I had to like lay low for a while and then just like figure out, okay, like I can't do this anymore. What are the other things about me that I can like tap into a little bit more? And, you know, music again was a huge confidence boost for me, because it's not like I stopped playing music when I was doing soccer. Like I would still practice and play and record stuff all the time. So it's like I at least always had that there. And I'm like, oh, I'm actually still good at this. Like maybe this can be my new thing. Like, and you know, like maybe also like when you're that age, you don't take it as seriously. I feel like if like right now, if something were to happen to me and I couldn't play music anymore,
then
bro, game over. Like I don't know what I would do. And that's because like now it's like my job, it's my career, it's like a legit thing now. Back then, you know, comparing it to then, like with soccer, it's like it's not like I got paid to play soccer. It's not like it was like, you know, I wasn't getting like reached out by like Vancouver Whitecaps or anything like that. Like I wasn't like Alphonso Davies or anything. Like it wasn't that. So it was easier for me to
make that
transition to something else.
And I think it was probably helped too, because like you said, you were playing music, right? And so you knew that you were actually good at something else at the same time too. So you're like, oh, you know what? Okay. You know, I think actually even it's funny because I think Ori actually can resonate with that too. Just even with his photography and videography, I think it's the same kind of thing for him as well. But so okay, so now you kind of transition to more into music now. You're going into now you're in high school now. So in high school, are you playing more of your music now? You're focused more on that now.
Yeah. So high school was when I discovered Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
And that guy literally changed my life. Like, you know, he's kind of an awkward, like chubby ginger guy at the time, like just writing the best songs in the world, and just like based on talent alone, just taking over the music industry. And I was just like, man, like I was so inspired by that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, there's a lot of artists who are like, you know that a lot of the reason why they're famous, I mean, they're great, but like a lot of the reason is because they look the way they look.
Yeah.
And for Ed Sheeran, I'm like, okay, this man's doing it and he looks like that.
Yeah.
Like anything is possible. Like, and you know, like his songs were just unbelievable. And like his like when he plays them live, I was just so blown away by him. And like, you know, I would he kind of like, he's the reason I started writing songs. Like I tried to write different versions of his songs.
Yeah.
Because I just loved his songs so much. I'm like, okay, if I were to write like the same song but like an extension of that song, like if his 3-verse song was like 8 verses, like I would try to write the verse 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and like just, you know, that was like me learning and practicing how to write music. And eventually I just kept ripping off Ed Sheeran songs enough that they became my own songs. And then, you know, then I differentiated them from Ed Sheeran, and they weren't just Ed Sheeran rip-off songs anymore, and they were actually like a bit more unique. And and the other thing like that I liked about him really quick is like all his songs are very easy to play, just very easy guitar chords. It's not like I had to like learn all these complicated things to play them. Like they were just basic guitar chords, and that gave me a lot of confidence as well, just writing music. And then I started performing those songs, and you know, in high school, like talent shows and stuff like that. And just having like all your friends there, like screaming and cheering for you, like that was sick. Like that was definitely cool. That was definitely a huge confidence boost. And like those talent shows days were like my favorite memories in high school. And that again just kept giving me more and more confidence. I think that was probably really big in eventually you pursuing music full time, just because of those little pockets of success that you had as you were growing and stuff. And that's dope. Shout out to Ed Sheeran, man, because it's funny that you said that. You know, just looking like how he looks, you might not expect that, but despite all of that, he's still a super talented guy, right? And that's a big shout out. And I'm sure that the goal of what he's doing, I don't know him personally, but I'm sure the goal of what he's doing is that he wants to inspire other young people and other artists in music as well. So I think that he did his part there. So I mean, after high school now, you know, you're going to university now. So you have your major in psychology. What made you decide psychology? Why not chemistry? I mean, that's an easy one for me. I didn't take chemistry or physics, I don't think, in high school. Dude, I'm so bad at math. I'm so bad at like physics, and chemistry was okay. But like, I'll put it this way, I was like a 40s 50s student in math and physics, maybe like a 50 60 student in chemistry, maybe like a 70 student in bio, and then like English and social I was like a high 90s. So I mean, like university was an interesting one because I'm not, like, I'll be honest, I wasn't very good at school. I tried really, really, really hard. You know, like I've got Indian parents, like it was forced upon me. You are going to be good at school or you're moving out.
I'm surprised though that they didn't say like, yo, you got to be a doctor, or like, yo.
They did.
Okay.
There was definitely that expectation, but it's funny because like they knew that I wasn't very good at school. Like my mom, like especially, she knows how hard I tried. I got tutors. I went to like extra help sessions. I was at everything. And my mom knows that. Like, on God, she knows. Like, I put in work.
You put in work.
And I still just like, I was bombing my tests. I was doing really bad. I actually failed my math 30 diploma. I managed to pass the course by 1%.
Oh wow.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to like even qualify for university.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like I've struggled with school,
Mm-hmm.
but I always like had a natural aptitude for writing
Mm-hmm.
and even just like history, like world history and philosophy, and like all those kinds of things were really like easy for me, and I understood those things really easily. And that's why like when I got into university, for the first 2 years I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like in a general arts degree.
Yeah.
I just took as many different courses as I could to figure out if any of them really interested me. And I took a psychology course. It was Psych 104 or something like that. And immediately was just like, this is really cool. Like, not even just studying like brain chemistry and just like how all those things work, but then like applying that to real life and seeing like, okay, if you're like lacking in this thing, it usually looks like this. Or if you have too much of this thing, it looks like this. Like that to me was so interesting. And like I've always like, even just volunteering, like I've always gravitated towards things that are involved with like helping people through like difficult times. And I've always volunteered with like at-risk youth. Like that's something that's really close to my heart and like something I do all the time. And I was just like, man, I wonder what kind of career would let me do that as a job. And psychology just made the most sense. And that's kind of what led me to try that out. And I was like, honestly, if I got to do school, it better be this, because there's nothing else that I find as interesting.
Yeah. No, I actually like that a lot, because I'm actually going to ask you a couple questions on that. Is that because even for me in school, I was a decent student. It's the focus. I didn't really have focus. Like I was more in sports, so I didn't even care about school. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna play my sports, whatever. But I would say from my observation, I think you're a very educated person, right? So I know in society now, a lot of the narratives like, yo, go to school. You gotta go to school. That's the only way you can get educated. But like, just like you're saying, you were studying lots, you were going at it, and you still weren't doing that well in school. And I don't think, not a knock on school, but I don't think school is everything, you know, especially like I think there's so much that you can learn outside of school. I think sometimes school, it almost like puts you in a box a little bit, right? It makes you like, they don't teach you necessarily like how to think. They just teach you like what to think.
Exactly.
You know, so kind of how were you able to, like while you were in school trying so hard, was there ever a point where you were like, man, I'm trying so hard in this and like I'm still not doing that well? Was it ever like frustrating, you know, putting in all this time but not really getting the results that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I did do a lot better in university. And so what that said to me was that it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't good at school. It was that I wasn't good at math and chemistry and physics. Okay. You know, because that's, like you said it so perfectly just now, like they tell you what to think, not how to think. Like that's the best way. You answered my question. But that's like, honestly, that's like how it is, right? Like it's like you have to know how to do this. You have to know how to do this. You have to know how to do this. But then once you graduate high school, you never need to know any of that again. Unless you go into those things, right? So learning psychology, for me, that's when I realized I'm like, literally, I was like, oh, I'm not dumb. Like, I'm actually like smart. Like, and it was the subject matter that really determined like how I did. Because when I was learning something that I was actually interested in, I did really well.
100%.
I wasn't like a 4.0 GPA, but I was pretty close. But again, like I had to work so hard for those grades. And you know, I was working like 3 or 4 jobs as well as studying in university. So like I had no free time. I would, you know, go to school for 8 in the morning, have school till 3. Basically have enough time to like take the train, get home, eat something, and then throw on my work clothes and head right to work. That was my day, like every single day for 5 years. Like no joke. Like it was brutal. And
what pushed you through that? Like what made you like keep going through all that?
A lot of it was just like this is just what I have to do. A lot of it was like, oh, I only have 2 more years left. Oh, I only have 3 more years left. I'm, you know, like that was also in the back of my mind. A lot of it was just like, I don't know. I saw everyone else doing it, and I'm like, well, I'm no more special, so I got to do it too. I got to put in the work. And I know a lot of it honestly was just like honoring my parents. I was like, you know what, they let me live here for free. You know, they pay for my food.
I better.
You know, I want to make sure that I like, you know, do my part. And that's kind of. I even think back, I'm like, yo, what did push me through? I have no idea.
I'm like, yo. No, I feel that. So, actually, what did you? Kind of question that I want to ask is, for somebody else who might be struggling, in school, like, what advice would you give to them? And on top of that, what did you learn about yourself throughout that process?
In terms of advice, I think, like I said, like, when you're studying something that you're passionate about, it really does change how you see it. There was a time in university where I truly was passionate about psychology, and I really was interested, and I thought, like, you know what, I can actually see myself doing this as a career. Those were my best years. Like, those were, my grades were reflected in that. I felt excited to go to school. I felt really, like, lucky that I got to go to school, and just really fortunate for that. And a lot of that, again, was because I was studying something that I loved. So I think, like, for me, like, the advice I would give is, like, just make sure that whatever you're studying, whatever you're doing, it's something that you love. And sometimes it takes time to figure that out. Like, you don't always just know that. And I didn't know that. Like, when I applied for university, I applied for the creative writing program, which, like, nobody knows about, because who does that, right? I mean, I'm sure there are people, but, like, that was just, to me, I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do in university. I took all these, you know, do you ever do those, like, career tests?
Career tests, to tell you what you're most likely to do.
Mine were always stupid, man. Like, mine was always, like, writer, dancer, entertainer. I'm like, what does this even mean? And it's like now it's like
no.
But at the time, I'm like, this doesn't help me. Like, how there's no careers. You know, like,
they don't give you a guideline.
Exactly.
After they give you that, they don't give you, like, a guideline on how to, like, to pursue that, how to go about even.
Exactly. It's like, you can, it was so frustrating, because I'm like, even this exam thinks that I'm not good at anything. Like, basically, that's what it said. And so I don't know, man. It was like just a lot of trial and error, and I changed my major 3 times.
Oh, I did too.
Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, and then eventually, like, when I did find psychology, it was like, it clicked, and I was like, okay, this is the one, and I'm going to finish this. And I ended up doing great. And so I would say, my advice would just be to, like, pick something and really take the time to find what you're interested in. Ideally, before you end up in university and waste a bunch of time changing your majors and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, 100%. Actually, I'm going to touch on that, because that's actually something for me. Nothing to my parents or anything like that, but I remember very specifically, after I finished high school, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to take a year off. Let me just try some stuff and figure out what I want to do. And they're like, no, you go to school. You go to school. I was like, but I don't know what I want to do. They're like, no, go. And then I went, and then I went into business my first year. I was like, okay, this is maybe what I want to do. Switched my major. Then I went into wellness management, which would have given me, like, kinesiology. Went there for a year. I liked it. I liked it because I wanted to learn about my body. But then when we started learning other things, I was like, I'm not really feeling this one. Then I switched again into, like, business management. And then I ended up leaving school. I didn't even finish, right? And it's always something that kind of sticks with me, because I feel like, oh, man, I don't have a degree to show for myself. But that doesn't actually define me. And it's something that I had to learn, because actually when I left school is when I learned the most.
Totally.
And I was like, man, school is great for, I think, certain things. But I think unless you really know exactly what you want to do, it's not always the best, because a lot of people have their degree and they don't even work in the field that they're in. So let me the question that I asked you earlier was just, what lesson did you learn about yourself from that time period?
I mean, the biggest thing I'd say that I learned was just, like, hard work, and that I'm capable of that, and that I'm capable of, you know, going to school for 7 to 8 hours a day or whatever it ended up being, and then having a short little window and then going straight to work until really late at night. And, you know, those were like in many ways the hardest years of my life, but I did it.
Yeah.
And so I would say like that was probably one of the biggest things I learned, is that like I'm capable of going through that kind of hardship and like still and surviving, and like now it's just nice to know, because now when I hit a season where I'm just super overwhelmed and it's like every day I've got something crazy going on, and I feel like I'm just like drowning in work. I always just think back to university. Like it was,
If I could make it through
it was
that,
if I could make it through that, I'm good.
Then I could. No,
So-
I love that. I love that lesson, because that actually ties into there's a thing that Steve. I was listening to a podcast, and Steve Hardy, he said in the podcast, he said, "How many of you guys have had funky ass days? You know, he's like bad days," and everybody put their hand up, right? And then he said, "Now, how many of you guys made it through those days?" And everybody put their hand up too. And it says, so right now, technically, you're batting 100% for all the badass days, the terrible days that you didn't think you was gonna make it.
Yeah.
You made it.
Yeah.
So you have 100% accuracy to make it to make it through that
Exactly.
day. And it's like, when you think about that, it's just like whenever you're going through a tough day, I'm like, yo, I went through harder than this, and I made it. You know. So, and I think it's in psychology as well, but it's a big thing that we preach on the podcast and just in my brand in general is mindset. I think mindset is like super key to anything you do. It is like the foundation of everything. In order for you to make a song or for you to go to performance, you have to have the right mindset.
Yep.
You can't go up there and be like, oh, it's
No.
just wing it. You know, you can't. Even when I come to this podcast, I can't just be like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah.
I have to come with the right mindset, you know? And so that's huge. So now kind of moving away from school now, or I guess, so you got your degree now in psychology. Now you ended up working in psychology, I believe, for a little time period. Kind of how was that? And I think you made a change. So tell us about that and what led to that change.
Yeah, so while I was in university, I was volunteering for a bunch of different organizations. And a lot of it was like respite work. So essentially like working with children with disabilities, youth with disabilities. And I had made quite a few connections in that field. And I was volunteering like in the school board, like the Edmonton school board. And basically like I would just come in for a lunch hour and I would like hang out with a young adult or, you know, teen that's struggling with school, or they're like getting into drugs, or they're like getting in trouble a lot. And I would just basically like hang out with them for their lunch hour and just let them vent or talk to me or help them with homework or give them advice or just whatever. Like I was just there to basically just like be with them and do whatever they wanted to do. And that had given me some connections with the school board. So when I had graduated, I basically had a job waiting for me.
Okay.
And so I got hired as a behavioral assistant. So I was basically like working with the school counselor.
Okay.
And just kind of like a lot of like paperwork, like doing their reports for them, but also like working one-on-one with kids, working with them with their kids, and just like different situations every single day. And I was in a pretty like high needs school.
Yeah.
So it was like never a dull moment. Like I don't think there was a single day where nothing happened that was like crazy. And it was a very eye-opening job. It was like, it made me just have so much more respect for you know, teachers and people who like work in schools and and just counselors in general, like young adult youth counselors. Like I have so much respect for them. But I did that job for about 2.5 years. I loved it because, you know, when you had a breakthrough with a kid,
it felt really good.
it was like, oh my gosh, like this is the greatest thing ever. But you
draining,
very
probably.
rarely had a breakthrough with a kid. Like most times you would help them a little bit, but then they go home for the weekend and then you reset on Monday. And it's hard because a lot of their problems are from home and like their parents, a lot of them, you know, single parent homes. They're at mom's house, they're at dad's house. Dad's kind of abusive, mom's like crazy. Like you never know what version of the kid you're going to get every day. And so it's like, you think you made progress on Monday, you see them the next day and it's like, who is this kid? Right. And it was exhausting. Like I would come home every day and just be so tired.
I would putting your energy, all that energy
everything,
into everything.
Every part of me was in that job.
Yeah.
And I would like, this is like maybe a good thing and a bad thing about me is like I'm extremely empathetic.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time like separating myself from like other people's problems. So I would go to this job, and most people, like the school counselor, like she can turn it off when she goes home and like not think about work, but I took it home with me, and I would be so upset all day because this kid told me what's going on at home, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I would always just be thinking like, okay, maybe I should try this tomorrow, maybe we should work through this tomorrow. And like, but my brain was always thinking about it. And so tiring. Like I just wanted to come home and watch Netflix, and I had no energy to make music. I couldn't think of anything to write because I'm like,
your mind was thinking about
I'm just emotionally exhausted. I had nothing left to give to music. And long story short, like I talked with my parents, and I was like, look, this job is burning me out. Can I, like, would you be okay if I took 1 year to try to just go fully into music? And if nothing happens, I'll either go get my master's or I'll like find another job. And
so you're the definition of bet on yourself right now. Whoa.
Yeah. And so during that year, like I worked part-time as a waiter. So I'd like, you know, I picked a job that was way less intense. It was like, you know, I enjoyed waiting. Like it was like, I'm a pretty sociable person. Like it was pretty easy for me to like do that. And so I did that, and then I would still have a lot of energy when I came home to work on music. So I was like writing songs, putting out songs, entering competitions, playing shows. Every single opportunity I could get, I would take it. If they were gonna pay me, awesome. If they weren't gonna pay me, awesome. I'll still do it. I don't care. I just wanted to like get out there and start doing it. And yeah, man, it was a long time of just doing that every single day before I started getting like better opportunities. And eventually, like, you know, I didn't have to play for free anymore. And I mean, now I only play free when it's for a charity I believe in, but like, it's nice now. I'd never play for free anymore. So it's like just stuff like that. Like it's like paid off. I'm on the other side of that now, and it's like, okay.
So question now. So that first year, like that's a lot of, like, I'm like, okay, that's a lot of pressure now. You put it, it's like, yo, we start the podcast and we're like, yo, we're going all in, man, on the podcast, which we will be going actually, which we are. So we go all in. If it doesn't work, then like, yo, I'm gonna go back to school. So in the back of your head while you're doing these shows, were you ever thinking like, oh man, like this has gotta work, in order to make this, like, I can't go back to another job, you know, 9 to 5.
Yeah. Every single day, I woke up, like, you know, there was obviously some days where I would wake up and I would have nothing. I'd have my shifts laid out at the restaurant, and that was it for the whole week. And I'd be sweating because I'm like, I got nothing music related this week. And so I guess I had to like switch my mindset from seeing that as just being a bad situation to like, no, this is actually a full week where I can just focus on getting better, and I can just focus on practicing, and I can just focus on like, you know, sending out emails or networking or like whatever it was. This is funny. Like my family's always said this about me, and like my friends have always said this about me. It's like, I'm really good at making money. And that sounds so stupid to say, but like I always am like very resourceful, and I can always think of creative ways to like make an income with music that like no one else thinks of. Or when I explain that I do these things, they're always like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't know you could make money like doing that for music, like music and stuff. And like, you know, like I would start reaching out to people. I would like, I'll give you one example. There was like a Facebook group for like weddings and stuff like that. So I would join that group and then start like DMing people who were like posting about getting married, and I'd be like, can I write you a custom song for your wedding? And I'd have these people like, and I'm like, I'll do it for $100. right? Which to most people who are like ready to get married, it's like $100 for a free song that's about me, like all good.
Yeah.
So I'd have these people paying me like hundreds of dollars to write them songs, and they would love their songs because I was good at writing them. And you know, a lot of them would tip me. A lot of them would say, "Oh, like, would you write a song for like my friend's wedding? Like, I'll pay you to do it as a surprise." Or like, then I just started like building all these people who were like wanting me to write these songs. And then these people started hiring me to come sing those songs at their weddings. So then I was making money doing that. And then I started like teaching music. And then I started, you know, like all these different things. And like, I just started thinking about music as more than just going to play a show. And, you know, like that was at the time, like that was the only way I could think of playing or making money doing music, is like, oh, I got to get more gigs. I got to get more gigs. But it's like, no, like I just made way more money sitting at my computer writing these songs for people than I did at the last 6 gigs I did that paid me like $50 to sing for 3 hours. And I'm like, and then, you know, I was teaching piano and guitar lessons. I was saving money on production because I was doing it myself. Like I was learning how to produce music myself. And to this day, that is the best decision I've ever made.
Yes.
Is learning how to produce my own music. Because now my full-time job is producing other people's music. So that was like the best thing that I could have ever possibly invested the time into doing, was like learning music production, doing it myself, saving a ton of money. And then when I got grants from the government, because I've gotten a few like music grants, I didn't have to like use it to pay somebody to go record and produce all my songs, because I did it myself. So I would use that money for like marketing or like paying myself to do it, because a lot of these grants let you pay yourself. And so like, you know, I was making an income from grants as well in a way. And like, yeah, man, like I had to be resourceful. I had to show my parents that I was like doing everything that I could possibly think of to make an income. And eventually like I got so busy doing music that I had to quit my job because I kept asking for time off. And my manager was really chill. Like he was super cool. Like he came to my shows. He loved what I was doing. And he had a conversation with me and he was like, dude, honestly, like you've been asking for a lot of time off. And I know that he's like, I want to support you. But I think it's time that you like, you just go all in with this. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, man. He's like, obviously like, I love working with you, but like, I think you're getting very busy. Like you should just do it. And like, I was like, all right, maybe I will. And then the pandemic hit.
And then I was like,
and then it's like, then there's a whole other bunch of complications there, but it was just interesting. Yeah. And then just being resourceful and finding as many different unique ways to make money with music. That's kind of how I survived.
Okay. So that's going to be a lot to unpack there. I got some things there, but there's some things that you mentioned that really stood out to me. There's some gems that he dropped there. Like, first thing that he said was that he had to shift his mindset. Mindset's super, 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 super key. He shifted his mindset. He said that when he was looking at his week, he just saw it as an open week, right? But he had to shift his mindset as well as his perspective to look at all that free time that he has. Oh no, I can use this time to, maybe I can work on a song, or I can work on my guitar skills, or I can market, or I can find places where I can perform or play at, right? And so that's huge, 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 huge. In order for you to change your situation of where you're going or where you want to be, first thing you got to change is your mindset. You're not going to be able to just change things if you don't change your mindset first, because that's, in order for you to, like, if you, that's step one. If I'm thinking this way right now, how am I going to do that if it takes a different style of thinking to get to that point? So really first big thing that I noticed that you did was you changed your mindset.
100%.
And then you change your perspective or your outlook on your week. You're like, okay, well this week, there's a lot of empty spaces here, but instead of it just being empty space, how am I going to view this? Oh, I can view this as a time to build on my music or market or whatever. And so that was huge. And then, like you said, also developing skills for yourself, investing in yourself with producing, because now that has come to be a huge, huge, huge benefit for you later on, because now you don't have to go to the studio to produce. You can produce your own music. And I think that's how that's how he's able to be an independent artist. And we're going to get into that too. We're going to get into the business of all the music things that he's doing as well. But I just really wanted to highlight those points, and not only that, but just the willingness to be able to bet on himself and go all in even though it was probably scary, very frustrating and stuff like that at times, like in the beginning, but he was able to go all in despite that, right? And so sometimes you just got to take that leap, and I think even you were saying also realizing that there's so many different avenues for you to make music or for you to make income with what you want to do. It's not just one way. Like the podcast, not say the podcast, the show, the live show is not the only way for us to make money with the podcast. And I think that's something that I'm realizing now and that's even why we changed it from the podcast to the talk show, because the podcast, saying it as a podcast, it also puts you in a box a little bit. It limits you into when me and Ori go into certain meetings and stuff, they're like, oh, you have a podcast, but can you be on TV? Can you do this? Can you do this? Whereas if we have a talk show, it opens us up to opportunities bigger than just being in a podcast, So I think those are some really, really key points that I took from you. I love that. And so now, okay, so you also touched on grant. Okay, there's so many. So many questions that I have.
It's all good.
So now you've gone through this whole year now, right? So you got to the point. So within that year, you got to the point that you had to leave your job within that year. Was it in that first year?
It wasn't in that first year. No. It took like, I would say 1.5 to 2 years.
Okay.
More realistically.
Okay.
And, my parents were very patient.
Yeah.
They started seeing that I was getting momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hit that 1 year mark and I was like not ready to go back to school or whatever, I'm like, look, like I've got this going. Like this could be promising. Like I am doing it. I just need a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
So they they were okay with me having a bit more time, and again, very patient. And
shout out to the Dukes. Shout out to the parents, yo.
Man, honestly, like they've always been really, really strict and put a lot of pressure on me with like about music, and there was a lot of like really difficult conversations about it because they never really understood it. But if it hadn't been for them just like being willing to like just let me go all in for that period of time, because I think they knew that I needed that to be able to tell myself that I tried. And so the fact that they were okay with that, and I proved to them that like, look, I have a degree. I can go get a job anytime. I can go back to school anytime. I did the 5 years of university that you asked me to do. So like I proved to you that I am willing to work and I'm willing to do this, right? And so like I think they respected that and they understood that, and so they reciprocated that by giving me the space to like try and explore music. So then they gave me that extra bit of time, and it was in that period of time where things kind of started falling into place. And then of course like we had our pandemic, and that also like affected my work decision and just like my plans for what I was going to do with music. Like I was supposed to go on tour, and I was booked for all these festivals, and they all got canceled. And
how was the initial feeling of that, seeing like just when the pandemic happened and then seeing all these things happen, like things are closing down, people were not going outside, like what was the thought process going through your mind, like you just now getting into the clear night, like okay, I'm doing this full time, doing my thing, and then boom.
It was like there's been a few times in my life where I've felt that depressed and hopeless, and I guess the month when everything was shutting down, and every morning when I went to my laptop and I opened up my emails, and there was an email from a new person saying, "We're so sorry to inform you, but this event has been canceled. We will keep in touch for future, but for now we've decided that we're gonna postpone this event." And the funny thing is, like, at first everyone was reaching out saying that it's postponed. Then the postponed turned into canceled. And dude, I felt like in many ways my like career was over. I felt like, I'm like, man, like I've I put it all on the line for nothing.
Yeah.
And it was brutal. Like, it was really hard. Like, I was sitting with my parents, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, I had momentum, I had things lined up, and now they're gone.
Yeah.
And, my parents didn't really know what to tell me either, because it's not like we've had this happen before.
Yeah.
And, like, I had to, thankfully, I guess the government was giving away, like, CERB money and stuff like that. So I relied on that for 2 months until I figured out what to do. And then I, like I said earlier, like, I had this idea of, like, how do I... should we cut that part?
No, yeah.
Okay.
You can just take that.
I had this idea of, like, again, how can I make the most of this? How can I switch up my perspective? Because it's like, I can be sad and complain and feel bad for myself, or I can, like, do what I do best and be resourceful and figure out how to make
do what I
money.
do best. Do what I do.
Yeah, man. So then I had this idea of, like, at this time I was producing my own songs for a while, and I had put out a song right before the pandemic. Actually, sorry, not before. During the pandemic, called "Leave Summer Behind," and I had entered it in a competition called the 20K Summer Song Contest. It was put on by Chorus Radio, which is a national radio network.
Okay.
And basically, the criteria was that you needed to write a song about summer, and the prize was $20,000 cash.
Oh, wow.
And at this point, I was like, man, like, I don't know what to write a song about when you can't travel, you can't see your friends. We were in lockdown. So I'm like, what kind of summer is this, right? So I wrote this, like, funny song about how bad the summer was going to be, called Leave Summer Behind. I ended up winning the competition.
Oh, wow.
So I just, like, in this place where I was, like, broke, I had no job anymore.
Yeah.
I was relying on government funding to exist.
Yeah.
I won $20,000 cash that I was able to do whatever I wanted with. So that was a game changer for me. Not only just because obviously that's a helpful amount of money to make when you're, like, living at your parents' house, and, like,
that confidence boost.
It was a confidence boost.
Huge. Like,
and
I can still do this.
Because I've never won anything before.
Yeah.
Dude, I've entered so many competitions, you name it. I've tried out and auditioned and whatever, and I've never won anything. And winning that to me was, like, a game changer. And then I all these radio stations wanted to interview me, and, like, the news, like, I was on TV about it, like, all these people wanted to interview me, and, like, from all over Canada.
That publicity is perfect.
Yeah, and it was like, it was kind of like my quarantine success story. Like, everybody was like, when everybody's music career had basically been halted and put at a standstill, I just had this big boost.
Yeah.
And so, like, everybody was, like, talking about this song because it was the only thing really happening at the time.
Yeah.
So, like, that really helped me get on the radar of a lot of people now that I now work with on a regular basis, who I couldn't have ever dreamed of getting access to then. And it opened a lot of doors and gave me, like, my confidence back. And also, I produced, wrote, and recorded that song by myself in my parents' basement with no help. The reason I say that is, and the reason that's important, is because a lot of people started asking me where I recorded that song. Who recorded that? Who produced that song for me?
Yeah.
And when I said, no, like, I did it, and they're like, you did it, like, you like won this competition with a song that you recorded. I'm like, yeah. Now all of a sudden people want me to produce their music. And I started off with, like, just one person, and then they were really happy with it, and then they came back and wanted to do more songs. And the thing is, like, at the time, most of the recording studios were, like, shut down because, like, you legally had to be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I jumped in on the Zoom session game as early as possible. So I was doing Zoom sessions with people all over the world, and they were paying me to produce their music over Zoom and, like, remotely.
Yeah.
and then recording their vocals at their home studios or wherever they record their vocals, wherever they are. And so and then they would like send me their files, and I would put them in, and I would produce around it, and that ended up like saving my life in many ways, because
another element to the game for you as well.
Yes. So now, now it's perfect, because I work with enough people now that I don't have to do every single gig anymore. And when I get offered a gig and it's like, it's something A, that I just don't really want to do, or B, like it doesn't pay a lot, and the amount of time that I'd have to take away from my family to go do that for that amount of money, it's like now I can comfortably say, no, thank you, I appreciate it, but it's not really worth it. Because my production income supplements that is really nice. Yeah.
No, that's amazing, because that's actually a lot of what the podcast is about. The podcast is about kind of like that whole experience encapsulated. It's like super as an obstacle, you know, that COVID, everything shuts down. It affected a lot of people. A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people struggling. But out of that obstacle, you were able to overcome it, right? And from that overcoming, and you learned a lot of lessons. But that's when you also seen the most growth now. Because now from that, you're like, okay, you're able to build a whole another stream for yourself, another stream of income. Now you can produce things for other people that can supplement your income, so that now you can really focus in on your music. You can choose the gigs that you want to do. So that's super huge, I think. And so I guess I'll ask you that a little bit later on too. But so now you're producing and stuff like that. I went onto I was doing some research, and I actually now I want to kind of get into the kind of a education part of the podcast, of the show. Sorry, I'm still taking a little time to get that out of my system. But because something that I realized is that I think that we're providing value, but I wanted to also provide value in educating people on how, in your profession, you know, how to do what you are doing. They might not be able to copy everything. Everyone has their own unique way to things, but whatever advice that you could give that would really help. So I was going to ask you, I know on your, I was looking at one of your videos. I forget which song it was, but you had a music video for the song, and you were dancing in the video too. And I was like, "Yo, he got the moves!" And I wanted to come and ask you. It was in my mind. I was like, "Okay, I got to come and ask him," because it was in a school. I think
it's called Wanting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So Wanting, right? So take us. I want to know the process, the behind the scenes process of what goes into a music video. How do you script it? Because are you trying to tell a story with your music video? And yo, where did you get the moves from, man? I saw the moves. It was super dope. Honestly, I liked it. I was like, yo, I was like, this is sick. But kind of take me into the behind the scenes of creating a music video and what goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the music video. Like that one was like as high budget as I've gone so far. You know, because we had to rent out a school. I hired my buddy Josh Capulong. He's a dance instructor here in Edmonton. And
shout out Josh.
Yeah, like I collaborated with him and asked him if he could come up with a choreographed dance for the video. And he had a dance crew. Like a lot of them were his students. A lot of them were like, some of his other instructors. And they came up with a dance, and then like I went in for a couple lessons with him to like teach me the dance moves, and I'd be practicing in my basement. Like, oh man, I watch it now and I cringe, man, because I'm like, man, I needed more practice, bro. Like, I'm not a dancer though, so I'm like, whatever.
That's fair.
I just wanted to try it. Yeah. I wanted to go for that like High School Musical vibe.
Yeah.
And so that video was like intense, because like we had like lighting crew and like it was like a big production type of thing. My friend RJ did an incredible job on it. He's with a company called Planet Sound. Shout out Planet Sound.
Yo, I know Planet Sound actually.
RJ.
I know that.
RJ's nuts. He's been doing it for a while and like just an absolute legend. And yeah, that video is just, it was so well done.
Yeah,
It was like a full day, like we did it all in one day.
Okay.
It was, most of it was like a solid take. So like
Okay.
the camera, it only cuts like a couple times in the video.
Okay.
Like you'll notice that like we do full scenes.
Okay.
Like we start at one area.
Okay.
We like dance our way into the next area, and
yeah.
then more dancers come in, and then we're still going and we're still going, and then there's one cut to the scene with my friend Conch rapping in the
Yeah.
classroom.
Yeah.
And then there's like, out of that scene, I'm like in the classroom and we walk out of the classroom, and the video follows me into the gymnasium. And it's
Okay.
like the whole video was like maybe like 1 or 2 cuts in the whole video.
Oh wow.
So it was like we had to do it so many times.
Because you have to. So were you singing while you were doing, like, were you
Yes.
singing while you're doing? Because you have to, like, I guess, get the timing of, or you're singing and we're producing it right there.
Yeah, exactly. So we had the song playing on a really loud speaker.
Okay.
So I was like lip singing it
Okay.
while trying
You
to act out the parts and like remember the dance
Yes.
moves for the parts, and like
It's a lot that goes
it
into
would,
it.
oh man, like when I see music videos now,
Yeah.
and they're like choreographed dances or something,
Whole new appreciation.
I'm just like I appreciate it on a completely different level now, because I'm like, I did that at a way smaller scale, and it was so hard. I cannot imagine like what it takes for these big budget ones, and like obviously they get way more time to practice and way more training and way more dance lessons. Like I think we only had time for me to do two lessons before the shoot. So like I still like, and I don't ever dance, so I'm like I still didn't really like, I dance at weddings, but like that's different. But you know, like a choreographed dance, I've never done that before.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a crazy music video. Like that was as big as I've ever done it. And yeah, ever since then, like I try to keep my videos pretty simple.
Okay.
Just enough to like tell the story, to like give an atmosphere, give a vibe.
Yeah. And
yeah.
sorry, just to touch on that. So
Yeah.
telling a story. So do you kind of like, so in your music, when you're telling a story, then in the music video, do you try to recreate that same story as in your music video?
Sometimes, like sometimes I like when the video tells an alternate story.
Okay.
It's like the song is about this, but the video tells you what it could also be about.
Yeah.
So that it creates this like
So-
confusion.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what is it actually
See.
about? And I like doing that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, yeah, the story is pretty like in line with what the actual video or the song is about.
Okay. Okay. I like that. And so now also, so you had all the success now. So I was gonna ask you actually as well. On your website, there's also a blog. Do you also write those blogs as well?
Yep.
So wow. Okay. So this guy's multi-talented, man. This guy blogs. He's producing. Man. He's out here. Right. So so that's super dope, because I was actually reading one of them, and I want to touch on it, is streams.
Yeah.
Right. So you've had numerous songs that have had over 1 million streams, which is a really big accomplishment. But in that article, I know you were writing, it said that streams are not everything. Streams don't equal a fan, right? Because sometimes in a stream, someone could have just played the playlist and they could have just heard it, or they could have played it, they could have taken it off.
Exactly.
So how do you, when you get these songs that reach over 1 million views or a million streams, how do you kind of gauge your response or your expectation from it? You know, like, are these 1 million fans, or are these, like, how do you kind of gauge that?
I try to think of it as an indication of what does well, and I never consider it as how many fans I have.
Okay.
Simply because of what you just said. There's so many reasons why your song could have gotten played. It could have just been in a playlist. It could have just come up randomly, and the person might not even have been listening to it. It's certainly not an indicator of how many fans you have, by no stretch. And also, if they like, and I said this recently in a post, someone asked me this question on Instagram about streams, and it's like, if Spotify decided tomorrow to hide how many streams you have, nobody would care about streams anymore. The only reason people care about streams is because of Spotify. On Apple Music, you can't see how, like, if say you had music on Spotify or on Apple Music, sorry, and I were to look you up, I would have no idea how many streams you have because it doesn't show it on Apple Music. But if I looked you up on Spotify, I could see how many streams you have. So the only reason this whole streaming obsession exists is because Spotify has chosen to allow people to see how many streams you have, but they could take that away. And I don't think they will. I think they should, because it creates this like almost like clickiness about releasing music. And it's almost like this thing where it's like, now if you release a song that's really good and you put your hard work and effort into, and it doesn't get on New Music Friday, or it doesn't get on this playlist, people start feeling like it was a failure. They should like, oh, this song sucks. I shouldn't have put it out because it didn't get on these playlists, so it must suck.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I've had some of my best songs that that were A&R'd by like Warner Records, and like, I was told by these like big wigs at these companies that this is like a very good song, and it like doesn't get any playlists when it comes out. And I'm like, and then it makes me feel like, what if they were lying to me? What if it's not a good song? And it's like, no, it is a good song.
Yeah.
And just because it's not reflected in how many playlists it got or how many streams it got doesn't take away from the fact that it's a good song.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's so much that goes into playlists and streaming, and a lot of it is just like, it's curated by a human being.
Yeah.
There's a literal human being who chooses which song gets on the playlist and which ones don't. And to everyone they say yes to, they have to say no to someone else. Yeah. There's only enough space, right? So it's like, they might love your song, but there might be a reason that they have to choose someone else over you that has nothing to do with the song. And it may have to do something else. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why I'm like, this is such a dumb thing that we focus on, because there's so many factors of why you might not have been on a playlist or might not have been added. And the fact that we have reduced our excitement about putting out music and creating music to whether it gets enough streams is really sad.
Yeah.
And that's why we have these, that's why we have these like TikTok songs now, that a lot of them are garbage songs.
Yeah.
But because they have a little 15-second clip that's like really funny or that can be used on TikTok, these are now the biggest songs in the world.
Exactly.
And it's like no offense, like some of them are really good, but a lot of them are like trash. It's like, this is not even music.
You didn't put that all into it. You didn't put anything behind it to really.
It was written for TikTok.
Yeah.
There's no substance. There's no story. There's nothing. It's just like someone wrote this specifically to blow up on TikTok.
Yes.
And that is the purpose of the song. And that to me is kind of sad, because it's like, this isn't music anymore. We're now trying to, turning.
It's a straight entertainment, just trying to get the views,
Yes.
right? And that's, I like that. I think that's especially important for, I guess, artists as well that are coming up too, is like, you don't have to focus on getting because that's not indicative of your fans and people that support you. Like I was blown away when I went to your event at Midway, and it was just like, it was packed, and it was just sick to see how many people came to support you. And that's what I was asking. I was like, yo, how does that feel to be like up on that stage and have all these people come here to support you? But I think a lot of times, even us, sometimes we can get caught up in the views. You have 1 million views on an episode, but there's only one person that commented. There's no engagement or anything like that, right? So and that's really where it's going to be more important, is, are you actually getting fans that are actually engaging with your work and stuff like that? And so I think that was a really good thing that you brought up. So also, I know, so Netflix, having your songs on Netflix, can you tell us how did that happen? Like what was the process of that happening?
Yes.